Yep.
Hello and welcome to episode 279 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and I think we'll start today with the non-trade of Otani.
Okay, start on a positive one. Cool.
Start positive. So, I understand the owner wants to keep him, and that franchise just mystifies me because it just seems like whatever move they make is the wrong move.
They almost seem like the Knicks of baseball, where it's not that they're cheap, it's not that they're not spending money, they just keep screwing up.
Or the players that come just don't perform like you expect them to come.
Yeah.
And I mean, in general managers, I don't know if that's where the problem is. You don't have the right talent people. But you got a year if you don't trade him in the offseason, you got a year to convince him that things are going to change and it's going to be good. And I got to say, I don't think that they're going to be able to convince him. So you're going to have probably, whatever it is, the next trade of Babe Ruth again.
Yeah. But like you said, I mean, and Major League Baseball is talking about, like, your biggest star, the guy that hopefully can reinvigorate, get some youth involved, and get people excited is never in a relevant game.
No. And, being from Japan, I'm thinking, I don't know this, but I'm thinking that he would prefer to stay on the West Coast. So that means it's either going to be the Dodgers, the Giants, the Padres, or perhaps the Mariners.
I forgot all about the Giants somehow.
Yep. So it'll be one of those, I think, one of those four teams, depending on who has the most they give up. Now, that would, to me, would knock out the Padres because they gave away the farm for Soto.
Yeah.
So it would be the Dodgers, the Giants, or the Mariners. I don't know how much they have. I mean, you're going to want, the rumor is you're going to want six
prospects, yeah.
Six prospects and current players.
But I was thinking about this trade and then, the Lakers not making their trade, right? Because they want to hold on to the picks in 27 and 29, which are essentially, prospects, right? I mean, they're prospects in waiting. But baseball is such a, a weird sport where it's like you could give up your top six prospects and you end up with, literally giving up nothing.
Yeah, or you end up giving up two players to turn out of the six. I mean, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, like if I'm getting Otani, a generational talent, like amazing pitcher, amazing hitter, I'd give it my top 10 prospects and not think twice about it because I don't think I'm giving up Otani or even, half an Otani. I mean, if three of those guys work out to be major leaguers, which I think is pretty close to what the internet showed me was the average, like that doesn't even mean we're talking all-stars.
No, it just means they made rosters.
Yeah. And again, I mean, obviously not to bring up sore subjects of the Pittsburgh Pirates, but you look at the Devil Rays now and it's like, even if you have your top prospects, maybe you don't even develop them right and they end up somewhere else succeeding. So, like if I can have Otani, I'm giving him...
It's going to be hard to say. I mean, I think it kills the franchise if you trade Otani. I really do.
Yeah. But if I'm another franchise, I'm like, what do you want? Just 6? You want 7? Take 7. Cool. I don't care. You can have a water cooler.
That's interesting. And then, again, staying with the theme of not traded, Jimmy G's sitting out there still.
Yeah.
And now, in all likelihood, Deshaun Watson's going to be out for a year.
Yeah.
So, are you comfortable with Jacoby Brissett as a guy with that current roster to run him for a year, or do you want to bring in Jimmy G?
I think it all comes down to cost. Like, if the 49ers really want him off the roster, and I could get, I can get Jimmy G for a conditional 3rd or a conditional 4th round pick, then I think that's a no-brainer. I bring him in regardless because, I mean, having 2 quarterbacks is better than having 1. And Brissett has never been a guy to stay healthy. But I'm not giving up a 2nd or 1st round pick for a guy coming off shoulder surgery, when I already have my franchise guy.
Tannenbaum talked about when they got Brett Favre at the Jets.
Yeah.
And it was a conditional pick depending on how many snaps and what he did and everything else. And so it was a 3rd that could have become a 2nd.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then, obviously the 49ers would pay, I don't know, maybe 50% of the salary because the Browns really aren't paying. You're paying them $300,000 this year is what you're paying Watson. So you've got money.
Oh, yeah.
So, is that what you want to do? So we'll have to see how that plays out.
And I guess now that we're here, what are your thoughts on this Deshaun Watson mess that continues for the NFL?
Well, think
Because you read the judges or the former
if you're in
judges.
6 games for drugs, and then 6 games for this just doesn't seem equivalent.
No, but as that judge pointed out, like, did you read her?
I read parts of it. What's your comment on it?
Well, I mean, she shredded the NFL. You know, she's like, you weren't forward thinking. You did not have any sort of provision. She's like, you've proven you don't care about women. You're not helping women. And this is, I think what he's done is awful. But in your bylaws, with your lack of forward thinking, 6 games is all I can give him legally.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think she nailed it.
Yeah. And then now the NFL once again gets to a point, it's not Roger Goodell, but it's basically Roger Goodell's but his best friend, on some level. Like, the NFL is obviously hiring somebody that's going to give them what they want, which is, fight for the indefinite suspension. But you just agreed less than a year ago to this collective bargain agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And all the NFL wants is for this story to go away for a year. They want to have a nice year of football, get back to talk about Joe Burrow and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers on drugs and everything else, and not talk about Deshaun Watson. But it's, to me, I guess my issue is, like, if you agree with the judge and you're worried about public opinion, I don't see how you can ever bring somebody like this back. Like, I know you can say, the world's, people forget about everything, but, like, just like when Michael Vick was in Pittsburgh, like, years later, like, there were still protests, and that was not what this is. And that was not during this climate that we're in now. So I just feel like if you think he did all these awful things, and you think he is predator, and you think all these horrible things, like, I don't think a year is enough if you're the NFL. Like, I just don't, because I don't feel like if you're sincere in protecting women and setting an example, like, I don't think you can counsel away a person that hires 66 masseuses and has sexual, assaults of 24 of them. Like, that's Bill Cosby level stuff. Like, that's...
Yeah, the other thing that upsets me about the whole thing is every time the Browns say something, it's Jimmy and Dee Haslam.
Yeah.
So she's signing off on all this. And I'm real uncomfortable with that. I think it's a bad precedent. I think it's a bad message for the Browns and their fans. And I know there's a lot of people in Cleveland that are really upset about this.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I mean,
despite being Browns fans.
Although I've lost, contact over the years, like, my friend from college, he's gone on to have 2 children who grew up in New England during Tom Brady and Bill Belichick's greatness. And he fought very hard to keep them as Brown fans. And you can imagine, kids growing up in New England when the best team in the world is all your friend's favorite team. The best player in the world is on your favorite team. And you're fighting to keep them Browns fans. And right now, he doesn't even... A lifelong Browns fan. 3rd generation Browns fan, like we're 3rd generation Steeler fans. Maybe he doesn't want to root for the Browns anymore.
Yeah, that's a statement.
And I think that's more common, I know there's people that are supporting Deshaun Watson in a very bizarre way until asking for autographs, and that's pretty gross. But like I said, I feel like if you stick to, if you either think it fits with the narrative, and that's the 6 games, and, maybe you negotiate it to 8 or 10, but I think if you hope this is all going away in a year, like, I just don't think that's... And I'm sure the Browns...
No, and the term they use is indefinite suspension.
Yeah.
That he could reapply after a year.
Yeah, but if you think, and public opinion seems to be pretty clear, like, in the judge's opinion, I think is pretty close to what most people either can or cannot articulate. Like, if you think you have a legitimate predator, and this is a weird, like, this behavior is not... It's not one case of he said, she said. Not that that's ever an excuse for anything. But when people are comparing it, I know Roethlisberger's name gets brought up and Ezekiel Elliott's name gets brought up, and I'm like, this is a disturbing pattern of multiple women. And it just seems like
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think there's method to the madness? In other words, he didn't play at all last year.
Right.
You suspend him for another year. It's 2 years that he will not have played an NFL game. Do you think that they're trying to get him to the point where he loses his skill set and he's irrelevant and he never comes back?
I mean,
I just thought about that, but I mean, if you don't play for 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's still practicing with the team. He's only 25 years old. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's like riding a bike, but you look at Klay Thompson, like towards the end of the finals, he looked like Klay Thompson again after missing 2 years, and he's even older. I know that was an injury and not a suspension, but I'm sure he was going to be rusty. But I mean, it feels to me like the NFL's intention is just to stop the narrative from ruining this season. And I know if they get the indefinite suspension, that's sort of what it is. But it feels like if you do believe that half of your audience is women, and you want to set a real example, I just think I don't know if you can legal. I don't know how the union rules work, but I don't think I just would ban them. Because this isn't, Josh Gordon with drugs. Like, this is really, really weird stuff. Very disturbing stuff. And I don't know. Even, I mean, like I said, it's not even about being a Steeler fan, not wanting the Browns to be good. This is just, as an NFL fan, you have to swallow a lot of crap to continue.
We could pretty much see the way this is going to pan out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to get what he wants. He's going to get him out for a year. I'd be shocked if the judge that he appointed it doesn't throw him out for a year.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they basically hired, if you wanted to punish me, and I was like, well, let's go ask mom. I mean, she's obviously siding with you.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. We'll see how it plays out. But this is, like we talked offline, this is the last Sunday without pro football until February.
Yeah. Well, let's go to a positive Steeler moment. We were both hesitant about the Deontay Johnson signing because it sounded like Deontay Johnson wanted, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel money, like that 4 years, $70 million. But the Steelers signed him for an extension of 2 years, $33 million. Or 36, $18 million a year. Which, given that they have a rookie quarterback and they have a lot of rookie contracts, they've already locked up their big names. It's a really good deal for the Steelers.
And what's he guaranteed, 26 or 27?
Yeah. And I think this contract also keeps him very movable for the next 2 years, too. Because...
Yeah, I agree.
In another very positive Steeler note, their second-round pick, George Pickens, looks like an absolute steal and a stud. And their fourth-round pick, Calvin Austin, is making plays every day. And I know, we know the mantra this time of year where it's not even preseason football, but... You look at what the only question about Calvin Austin was his size. And it doesn't look like that's going to be an issue. He's smoking guys in practice. I guess the one negative would be you still have this trio of quarterbacks who all look pretty crappy.
Well, what's the over-under on the Steelers? 8.5 wins?
I think it's down to 7.5. You can find him.
Okay, when you look at the schedule, it's a tough schedule.
It's a very tough schedule.
But I just don't see how they're not as good as they were last year, if not better.
I agree. And I also sort of feel, I've come around to the point where if I drafted a 24-year-old, and I think I've made this point, but I'm going to make it one more time, I am preparing for Kenny Pickett to be my starter, and I'm just starting Kenny Pickett. You look at Joe Burrow, you look at Trevor Lawrence, you look at first-round quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, like even Ben Roethlisberger ended up starting most of his rookie season. Like, if you're a good quarterback, you need to start getting reps. And if Kenny Pickett is my future, if Mitch Trubisky is not winning this job outright, and I've already seen 3 years of Mason Rudolph, including, despite what some Steeler Nation thinks, like, that guy got more first-team reps than any backup in the history of football. Ben Roethlisberger would take off 2 days a week in practice, and he took all the first-team reps. Like, you know exactly what you had in him. You wouldn't have drafted 2 quarterbacks and signed another free agent if he was the guy. I'm starting Pickett and just living with the growing pains because he's either the guy or he's not the guy, and I need to be ready to go and make that decision. I don't want to make a decision 2 years down the road. I got Cam Hayward. I got P.J. Watt. I got a really good defense. I've got nice weapons. The offensive line is still a work in progress, but I don't think I have time to let, to give Pickett 2 or 3 years to see if he's especially because, like I said, he's not Malik Willis. He's not this super raw young prospect coming in that was going to need some seasoning, or Trey Lance or one of these guys. He's, he was the pro-ready guy. So let's see if he's pro-ready, and let's grow with him or fail with him. So.
All right. I don't disagree, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and again, like I said, if the narrative coming out of Pittsburgh Steeler camp for both the national media and the local media is that nobody is winning this quarterback competition. Like if Mitch Trubisky came in and was just destroying people and looking like, there was, like, are we even going to start Pickett? Is Pickett going to become Jordan Love? Then by all means. But if it's, all the guys look, moments of nice and mostly moments of mediocrity, like, then just throw in Pickett. Let's just.
Hey, speaking of which, what about Jordan Love?
I mean, I think you're in a weird position as the Packers because you've held on to him this long. And unless somebody bowls you over, like, he could still be your future because, And while we're talking Packer quarterback, just real quick on a tangent, is admitting you did mushrooms, is that not a rule violation of some kind? Or is it you just didn't get caught, so...
Well, I mean, you weren't in a testing phase. You were in the off season. You were not in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just seems like a weird, like... Because when he came out with that, I was like, that's a very Aaron Rodgers thing to do and say. Between that and showing up looking like Nick Cage and Con Air to training camp. But, I just feel like last 2 seasons I've been doing mushrooms and getting high. Like, I feel like that should be...
You saw it. Well, no, he's not been getting high during the season.
No, yeah. But
he goes off and gets himself together to get prepared to come back and play. Now, the interesting thing is, the part of the quote that made all the attention was the part that he said it made him a better lover. That's what got all the attention. That got more attention than anything else. Yeah,
between that and the Zach Wilson banging everybody's mom stories, like the NFL seems like they're going like housewives.
It's crazy stuff.
It is. It really is. And speaking of NFL, starting next week, we're going to start doing our conference breakdowns and picks next week. So, get your money ready and bet the opposite of what we say, correct? Is that what we're going with?
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So, which divisions you want to start with next week?
I like starting out west and working our way back towards... I like ending with the Steelers.
All right.
So, AFC West, NFC West?
AFC West, NFC West next week.
And AFC West is very exciting. NFC West less so.
I think both of them are very, very intriguing conferences.
That's true. I guess outside of Seattle, it is intriguing in the other one. That's true.
And even Seattle's intriguing because is he going to tank? What's he going to do?
Well, it might be one of the few quarterback situations worse than the Steelers currently. So, yeah, I think they're tanking.
Yeah, it could be. No NBA. Nothing of note there.
No, just more ridiculous. It seems like this is the ridiculous, just say something ridiculous and then leave it at that story. Like, say Scottie Pippen is, won more playoff games than Michael Jordan. Therefore, Scottie Pippen is better, which I saw going around.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're in say stupid stuff area.
No, I can't. So nothing big in the NFL. The live golf thing still now we're in litigation.
Yeah.
And we're suing now to see if we can, force our way into playing, and that's not going to end well. Because you got the guys now that stayed loyal, and these guys want to have their cake and eat it too. So this is not a good look, especially for Mickelson. I mean, I have no regard for Mickelson now at all.
No, none.
So we'll see where this goes.
You got the obviously the Brittany Griner situation, another sort of it's a bad sports week, I suppose.
Yeah, the Griner thing now, if you believe everything you hear, now because she's been guilty and now she's convicted, now the talks for a trade, a prisoner swap will exacerbate and will come much faster now. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, the one thing I've heard from a couple people that seems to not get any press is that obviously we're in a, everyone's become a legal expert and they're citing cases of past Russian drugs for whatever reason. They think they're a legal Russian expert. But the one thing I heard from a couple of legal analysts is that as great as it is to support Brittany Griner publicly, that all this outcry and all this demanding in America makes it even less likely that they can release her, because then it looks like they're caving to America. Like, while it's great to show her that you care, and all this demanding and yelling at Washington and all these sort of things, that maybe if people had just sort of let this play out quietly from the start, then she'd already be home, because then you wouldn't have made it. Then Russia could look like they were doing a favor as opposed to bending their will to America, which I thought was an interesting take.
My interesting take is that nobody's talking about how stupid she was to try and bring this into Russia. I mean, to me, that's the most stupidest thing of all.
And I thought her apology was heartfelt, but I don't think, unless you're a rich person, which I know she's borderline and famous, but not in this country, she would have been fine. But your defense can't be, I made a mistake. Like, that just doesn't seem to fly. And I did something illegal, but I'm sorry, I messed up. Like, that's not a very good legal defense from all the true crime I've watched. The only
thing it does is if you're guilty, maybe there's a little leniency, but you're still going to get something.
Yeah.
You're still getting locked up.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how this plays out. But I'm not sympathetic. I mean, if you're playing abroad, there's rules, and all the horror stories about drugs and convictions being in the Eastern Bloc in Russia, you're a moron if you do this. So I'm coming right out and saying it. It's just stupid. Well, and you earn what you get.
As a fellow tallie, I'm not sure what we call ourselves, but tall people, I do feel bad about her conditions because her cell seems too small for a tall person. It's like my complaint about airlines trying to charge me for extra leg room, and it's like, for me, it would not be extra leg room; it would be efficient leg room, and it feels like, at the very least, there should be tall prison cells. I know nobody cares about the plight of the talls. We can reach things on high places, and we look good in clothes, so people are very angry with us. But there are some things we could use as tall people. So that's my
Okay. And there you have it.
Yes.
Speaking out for an underrepresented group.
Yes, the talls, the tallies, whatever you want to call us. Yes, it feels like a Larry David Seinfeldy sort of situation.
Trying what else we got? Entertainment. I've been watching the fourth season of Stranger Things and really enjoying it. Didn't really enjoy the third season, but the first two were okay. And this one really has got my attention. And we got 3-4 good story plots going on. And by this time, I've gotten really familiar with all the characters, like the characters, so I'm in. I'm vested.
Yeah. I will have TV next week, because at some point this week, I'm going to watch all 6 episodes of Blackbird on Apple TV, which I've been very excited to watch. I've just been waiting till my schedule was allowed a little bit more time to focus. It seems like focusing TV.
And I'm going to start Blackbird once I get done with the Stranger Things.
Yeah, because
we got 5 episodes left. But Blackbird does look exceptional.
And only 6 episodes, which is very exciting.
And I did start City on the Hill season 3 with Kevin Bacon, and I've liked the first 2. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, I did start something. Sorry, my entertainment moment is I started Tokyo Vice, the Michael Mann, about the reporter who goes to Japan, American reporter in Japan, covering the Yakuza.
Oh.
I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I'm not loving it, but I'm enjoying it.
I like Michael Mann. I think Michael Mann does a good job.
Yeah, it's one of his stories, and again, I've always had a fascination with Japan and the Yakuza. And this is an American who goes there to try to be a journalist, and you're seeing sort of the differences, and it's it's starting to get good.
Okay.
So that's also HBO Max, which has been in a weird situation, but I think that's for another pod. We discuss the craziness of the streaming wars and what's happening over there.
Yeah. I've got new food. I had my food moments for all last week in New York. I didn't do anything this week, so
it happens. Yeah. I was like, I wish I had some food moments for you. Hopefully coming soon. But
yeah, I mean, I looked at a bunch of sales on Goldbelly, but I didn't pull the trigger on anything.
Oh, I did finally go to a Walk-On's because it was really close to where I'm working.
Okay. What did you think?
It's very solid bar food.
I agree.
Like, it's above your average chain restaurant, but not, you're not going to be blown away, I don't think, but it's very solid. It's
very solid, and you get a lot for your money.
Yeah. I was like, the portions were big, the prices seemed good, and everything was it's just, I'm not going to rave and be like, if you come to New Orleans, you have to go to a Walk-On's, but If you're looking for just like a sports bar with a, I guess just your standard bar food menu, it's pretty good.
I've gone to the one in Tampa here a couple times.
I forgot there
And
was
they've
one over
got a
there.
great buffalo chicken sandwich.
Yeah, so a half food moment. Not a full on recommendation, but
Yeah,
it's definitely better than
if
any
you're near walk-ons, I'd put it way above.
like Chili's or Applebee's or
Yeah, way above those.
yeah. It's sort of like the Five Guys of sit down casual restaurants, I would say.
There you go. That's good. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully next week, like I said,
Yeah, I
football
guess
talk.
abbreviated show next week probably longer as we do get into our football predictions, but not a lot going on this week.
No, but
This is probably the slowest week of the year. The Field of Dreams game is Thursday night. It'll be fun to watch, even though it's the Cubs and the Reds, which is two mediocre teams this year.
yeah, I mean,
fourth and fifth place teams in the Central, so I'm not expecting a great game, but the fact that it's there and it's fun and do the cornfield thing, I think it's cool.
it's visually very cool. You just throw it on for a couple of innings. It's sort of like the outdoor hockey game, especially when you get snow. Like even if you're not into hockey, like it's fun to watch for a period. And if you like hockey, then great, But same with the baseball. Like the Field of Dreams field is really cool, and the presentation, everything they do is really nice around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody, have a good week.